Welcome YouTube. My name is Matthew and this is Going Gray Fitness, and I am very excited to present to you today the first in our series of videos, Treadmill Time. So at Treadmill Time, we're going to tackle one topic at a time in all things related to being middle-aged. So they are going to kind of go in a chronological order so you can kind of go through the checklist on one video and work your way to the next, so on and so forth. So this first video's topic is preventing muscle loss, also known as sarcopenia. So sarcopenia is a medical term that really means muscle wasting, so I don't want it to seem like it's this big deal, because over 40, if you're not doing some type of resistance exercise, you're going to be losing muscle. So it's not too scary because it's very normal, but there are ways to combat it. And in later videos, we will talk about special circumstances to gain muscle or hypertrophy in middle age. Obviously, it's a lot harder when you reach a certain age than it is when you're 25. So the first thing we want to talk about is hormones. So testosterone is a very powerful hormone, and over 40, you can lose 1% of your testosterone every year. So a normal range for man is quite a wide range, from 250 to 950 nanograms per deciliter. So that's not something that you have to really worry about, but I do recommend getting to your physician, getting blood work done. If you're skittish about getting to your physician, there are plenty of options to get that done without going through your physician that are less expensive than they used to be 5 years ago. So one that I use is Pixel by LabCorp. So I can get a complete, I think they call it men's wellness panel. Basically, it tells me everything. It's $200. So you order it online, they send you the work order, you go into a LabCorp, you get the blood work done. 48 hours later, they send you your numbers, the raw data, and then their interpretations on what those numbers mean. So most people, they're going to have their annual physical where their insurance is going to cover that blood work. For me, I get my blood work done every 90 days. I think it's a good idea. You want to know what's going on under the hood, especially once you reach a certain age. So I do recommend that. So going back to testosterone, men over 45, 40% of them fall below normal ranges of testosterone. So clinically, and I don't know if it's deemed clinical by the insurance, but my understanding is clinically, if you're 200 or under, then you're deemed low, and then you could qualify for getting some hormone replacement. This is not a video about hormone replacement. We will talk about that later, but this is going to be a video on how to get your levels back through diet and lifestyle. So testosterone being low, the signs of low testosterone, number one is going to be low libido. So if you're not thinking of sexual activity, that's going to be a sign. Low spontaneous erections, especially in the morning. So if you don't have that morning wood anymore, then that's something you need to think about. Obviously, losing muscle and gaining fat, especially around the midsection. That spare tire is a sign of low testosterone. There is some links to having belly fat with other cardiovascular risks as well. Sleep disturbances can be caused from low testosterone. I wouldn't say that that's a main thing you should be looking at, because there's so many other factors that could go into poor sleep, and we'll get into that later on in the video too. But if you are having big fluctuations in your testosterone, that can cause some issues with your sleep and insomnia. So your testosterone is higher in the morning, thus the morning wood that we discussed. So it wanes throughout the day, especially later in the evening. So there is some techniques that you can use to bring that testosterone up later in the day, where you might be getting the benefit of some anabolism or muscle growth or maintenance and repair, protein synthesis, along with the increase in testosterone. So testosterone is going to regulate your sex drive. We know that. So again, if you're going back to that comment I made about not thinking about sex, again, testosterone is going to help you regulate your sex drive. Your bone mass, for sure. Lower testosterone has been associated with less dense bones. Muscle and strength, for sure. I think everybody knows that. That's why, bodybuilders use steroids, which usually are going to come from some derivative of testosterone. But red blood cells and sperm production also are associated with testosterone. So, your vitality, your vigor, fatigue, those things are going to be better if your testosterone is at a normal level, or even at a high normal level. So the other hormone that comes into play with middle age is growth hormone. So growth hormone declines in your late 20s, actually. I've seen some studies. So middle age, it's not this precipitous cliff that you're falling off, but it does drop, and there's some things that you could do to raise it. Normal growth hormone is like 0.4 to 1 nanograms per milliliter, so it's not a lot as far in relation to other hormones, and it gets secreted in pulses. So certain things can help you get more growth hormone, which we're going to talk about in more of that hypertrophy video. But sleeping well, deep REM sleep, increases your growth hormone. Hard training, weightlifting, increases your hormone. Consistent anaerobic training, the weight training, but also aerobic training. So not redlining your heart rate, but steady state cardio consistently, maybe through the mechanism of lowering your body fat, because higher body fat tends to lead to lower growth hormone. So all these things are going to kind of come into play. But it's really difficult to find out, hey, I think I have low growth hormone because this is happening. But growth hormone, what you may notice, and it's tricky because as you get older, these things just happen gradually, but your hair and skin tend to look a little bit different, a little drier, wrinkles are a little deeper, again, bone density. So, if you're getting to your physician, you can take a DEXA scan and they'll tell you what that is too, although I don't really expect anybody to be doing that this early on. But your fat and sugar metabolism is also going to be affected by your growth hormone. So some diet manipulation and good eating habits can help bring some of that, restore it back. But growth hormone definitely signals growth and repair in the body. Now, excessive growth hormone or exogenous growth hormone, meaning that you put it into your body, can definitely have some issues, especially in regards to cancer and tumors. So, I mean, we're not recommending anything yet, but I would steer clear of growth hormone use because of the unknowns that could be going on in your body. But there are some ways to naturally get more pulses of your endogenous growth hormone. So, we need to talk about medication as well. So, there are two very common medications prescribed in the US, probably outside the US, but that a lot of men are using. So, statins, cholesterol medication, beta blockers to help control blood pressure. So, statins, there's a study that has shown men on statins are 2 times more likely to have low testosterone. And men on beta blockers have been shown to have lower free testosterone. So you have testosterone that's circulating, and some of it is bound. And we'll get into that later. I don't want to go off the rails here, and that's why getting some of your blood work done can be a little tricky to decipher it, but we'll get into that. So I'm not suggesting that anybody get off their medication, but some of what we're going to talk about today of simply keeping the muscle that you have and these changes that I hope you're going to make might reduce the medication that you need to take, or you might be able to come off of them completely. So that alone can increase your hormones. Okay, so let's talk about training next. So resistance training or weightlifting is very important. It is going to be probably the most important as far as preserving your existing muscle. So there has to be enough stimulus to initiate adaptation and protein synthesis. So, and we're going to get into more of that of the hypertrophy video, the science of the building of the muscle. So let's talk about just getting in the habit of lifting weights. So what I think is going to be the most effective if you're having a hard time getting to the gym or just making time to exercise is to have 3 sessions per week, which would be called your split, and having those sessions be whole body routines each time. So if you were to get into the gym, or if you're working out at home, you would want to do an exercise for your chest, your shoulders, your arms, your back, your legs. So per body part, my recommendation would be 3 sets of one exercise. So for chest, let's say, you would do 3 sets of bench press. For shoulders, you would do 3 sets of shoulder press. For back, you would do 3 sets of rows. For legs, you would do 3 sets of squats. For arms, you would do 3 sets of curls. For triceps, you would do 3 sets of press downs. Right now, your exercise selection is not going to be that important. It is simply getting those muscles working hard enough to elicit some adaptation from your body. So, what I think is best is to perform 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. And the reason that it's a range of reps is think of it this way. Your first set, you want to have a certain amount of tension for a certain amount of time. And if you guys are combing around the internet, you're going to hear time under tension a lot. And there is a lot to be said for that, but intensity of the exercise has a lot more to do with it as far as building of the muscle. Muscle endurance, different thing. But, so your first set, you have a weight that you can perform 8 to 12 reps, no less than 8 and no more than 12. So if you can get 15 of this, it's too light. If you can only get 7, it's too heavy. So for example, your first set, let's say it's, just to make it easy, 100 pounds on the bench. And your first set, you get 10. Good. Your next set, you're going to use 100 pounds. And let's say you get 9. Good. Your third set, you get 7. The next time you would perform that exercise, you would drop it by 5 pounds. So your first set would be with 95 pounds, getting 8 to 12. Second, 95 pounds, 8 to 12. Third, you understand. So what that's going to do is very quickly, within a few workouts, you're going to be able to have enough time performing the exercise and enough of the appropriate tension where it's going to elicit a response. At least enough of an adaptation response to have some of your body saying, hey, we need to repair, and protein synthesis is going to kick in. So my recommendation would be to have 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off, as far as your weight training sessions. Now, along with that, I do think, because we want to lower some of your body fat, we want to create some insulin sensitivity, and we can get into that at a later video, but for right now, we want you to be, how can I put it? The carbs that you ingest, it takes less insulin to shuttle out that blood sugar. So by performing exercise, resistance training, cardiovascular training, you're going to become more insulin sensitive. So on your off days, so Monday you work out, Tuesday is your off day, 30 minutes of steady state cardio. So steady state means it could be any exercise: walking, swimming, riding your bike, riding a stationary bike, stair climber, elliptical, dancing, I don't care what it is. Where you have not, how can I put it? Really, you're looking for zone 2 cardio. Now, the reason that we chose this type of video, where I'm walking and talking, and hopefully when you're watching these videos, you're performing some cardiovascular exercise too, but I'm performing zone 2 cardio right now, conversational cardiovascular exercise. So it's something that you could be doing while having a conversation. If you went a little bit harder, it would be difficult to speak in full sentences. Some people say, oh, could you sing a song while doing it? Versus trying to get your air in between words. So zone 2 cardio, like we're performing here, on your off days. So that's 6 days a week of exercise. 3 days of resistance training, 3 days of cardiovascular work, and then take a day off. Have a day where you're not doing anything. So another way that you could speed up the process especially with your insulin sensitivity, trying to get some of that belly fat off, is to perform 10-minute walks after each meal. So that does a couple things. That improves your digestion. It absolutely contributes to glucose clearing, so shuttling out the blood sugar. That has been touted, and I really think he's a smart guy, and I have used his diet before. I do think it's a little more for the advanced person or the competition or the athlete, but there's a gentleman, Stan Efferding, who has developed what's called the vertical diet. It works well. I think it's more for performance, but he's a really smart guy, pro bodybuilder, power lifter, real good guy. Well, I don't know him, but he knows what he's talking about. And he says 10-minute walks after your meals. Now, of course, he did not invent walking for 10 minutes, but it does work. So that's something that you might want to include also on your on days, your weight training days. So after you eat a meal, take a walk for 10 minutes. You will notice that you're going to have less GI distress, definitely less bloating. That's something that I immediately sensed, especially when I was really trying to push calories. So maybe add that strategy in. So 3 days a week, weightlifting, 3 days a week, steady state, zone 2 cardio, and 1 day off. So let's talk about sleep. Sleep is very important. A lot of people will say sleep is the most important because that's when a lot of your recovery and repair is going to be done. I have had trouble sleeping for a long time. I've tried everything. There are a couple things that have helped. There's a lot of anecdotal information out there like, oh, I did this, try it. And I'm not saying don't try those things. I mean, try anything to get some better sleep. I think using drugs or alcohol is not a good approach. And what I mean drugs is smoking weed or Ambien or something like that, or to have a few drinks to relax. But there are a few things that are facts and that have helped me. And keeping a cool, dark room is beneficial. Those things can definitely help. Now, cool does not have to mean cold. And what's cool to one it may not be cool to another. So I'll let you figure that out. But cooler in the sense that it feels better to be under the blanket than to kick off your covers. And dark, I mean dark, like your phone's not on, your alarm clock, although I don't know who has an alarm clock anymore, but zero light. Limiting screen time before bed, a couple hours before bed, definitely that's a fact too. So if you can stop staring at a screen, that when it goes through, that light goes through your eyes, it is inhibiting some production of hormones that will help you sleep. Try to do that. That's something that you could probably easily do, and I know everyone's busy, but if you can sleep better, you're going to perform better. And in theory, maybe you get the stuff done before, or you get those things done because you're performing better during the day, and you don't need to work so late at night. The other thing that will help quite a bit, and it will go into a later video of fasting, which I think is huge, is not to eat a couple hours before you go to sleep. So what that's going to do is extend your fast, assuming that you're not eating in the middle of the night. And some of that digestion that's going on can cause some sleep disturbance as well. So try those things. Okay, and the final piece to this puzzle, which is the trickiest thing to talk about because I've had and still have a lot of issues dealing with it, and I have looked everywhere for a solution, and I just think that people handle it differently. You know, life just throws a lot of bullshit at you. There's a lot of ups and downs. I'm definitely not a therapist, but how you can manage stress is massive. And look, if you have something that can help someone else out, please leave a comment because I'm interested in it as well. But stress, whether it's physical, emotional, your body pumps out cortisol, and that's a stress hormone. Now, you want some cortisol, but cortisol in abundance is not good. It is a catabolic, meaning a muscle wasting hormone. So for me, for instance, physical stress I tend to handle pretty easily. Emotional stress I do not. And I've tried a lot of things. So there are some factual, evidence-based strategies that we can talk about, but I think this is where you're going to see the most anecdotal, or hopefully within the community of this channel, where you get some help. So deep breathing is one of those that it is science-backed. And I'm not going to go into a lot of these factual science-backed things like yoga. Yoga is, the proof is in. But I'm not going to suggest some of these things that maybe we could get into later on. Again, this is the first video, so we're talking to people that maybe just need to make a change and get back on track. And you reach an age where maybe you need to get back in good shape, mentally, physically, or maybe you've never been in good shape and the clock is ticking. So deep breathing at almost any interval, but acutely when you have a stressful situation, is proven to work. Breathing in through your nose and out through your nose does lower your heart rate. It does balance out oxygen and CO2 coming out. So start playing around with that. My suggestion is in between your sets, because you're going to start hitting the gym. In between your sets for a minute, up to a minute and a half between sets. So not a ton of rest, a minute to a minute and a half. Really focus on deep, rhythmic, nasal breathing. And then try to carry that out throughout the day, but especially when you have that acute stress response. Going on walks has been proven to lower stress levels, lower cortisol levels. So I know you guys are going to start walking. I know it. It's an easy thing to do. So that's something that can lower stress hormones. Being with your pets. There's some recent studies saying having strong relationship with animals is stress relieving. I know that that's something that, for me, has probably made the biggest difference in how I can handle my anxiety and stress. When I'm around my dogs, I feel better. I don't know how else to put it. Sex. Sexual activity will lower stress. Now, there's other downstream cascading hormone effects that that are definitely contributing to lowering your stress. But, you know, think about initiating some sexual activity with your partner, and I think that can help. So the last thing that we're going to talk about in regards to stress and in the video is something that is tricky, because I think a lot of men fall into, and I don't want to say trap, I'm not making any judgments at all. I know that I've had issues with it, but alcohol is virtually doing nothing for you. Now, there was a recent study that came out, American Heart Association, which is shocking to me that it's this much, but their recommendation is 1 to 2 drinks a day for a man, and it's 0 to 1 for a woman. 1 to 2 drinks a day. So, especially if it's red wine, because of the polyphenols. But that, I think, the cardioprotective aspects of that, I understand. The habit forming problems may outweigh that, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not a physician. Now, there is some doctors that say, look, I agree, there's some cardioprotective benefits with drinking, but there's also immunosuppressive issues with alcohol and habit forming. So their recommendation, based off the American Heart Association findings, is to have 2 drinks one day and then not drink the next day. So you are having your 2 drinks and then the next day abstaining. And that allows your body to recover. Now, look, I know that there's guys out there that drink beers at night, and on the weekend, I'm not gonna be the fucking guy that says, you gotta stop drinking. But, you know, at middle age, you kind of need all the help you can get. And I know people are like, well, I'm going to live my life. Well, but you can live your life better than you are now, at least by improving your health, improving your mental well-being, and performing better. I mean, that's just it. So I don't know what else to say except that is whatever you're doing now as far as alcohol consumption, you know, try just cutting it in half, so you're not just, cold turkey, but, let's try to make a difference there. And I think cutting it in half is, fair to yourself. So the next video that we have will be a follow-up to this, meaning that it will be the next step that you can take. So I hope that you were walking or riding the bike or performing zone 2 cardio, or when you do see this video, you are performing your zone 2 cardio. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be putting out a lot of content beyond this Treadmill Time series. And I think more than anything, I want comments on the videos. So if there's something that you can offer that can help, please do it, because we're all in it together, so to speak. And if you're around my age and you grew up in the 80s, then you're probably cooler than other people, and you're probably still cool, and it's cool to help people out. So thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next one.